Hey, this is Jeff Justice with Jeff Justice Seminars for Court Reporters, and we are delighted that you picked us to get some of your online CEUs with. So you notice now you probably got a PDF. Go ahead and print that out so you can follow along with it with the course here. And at the end, you can scan it or send it back to us, or just put the answers into an email and send it to us, and we will get you your answers back and your score back right away and take care of getting you your CEUs. So get ready to laugh and learn with Jeff Justice Seminars for Court Reporters. One more time, here's Sue.
Hey, everybody okay? You get a cookie? Was it good? Good.
They turned the heat on.
We'll see how long I can stand it. That's all I can say. Y'all know about me and heat.
If she bursts into flames, somebody...
Somebody call the front desk and have him call Jeff in his room, and he'll come down and finish up.
I never gave you my number. Don't call me anymore.
Handle them, Linda.
I'm telling you.
Let me talk to them. Give them to see.
Come on here.
I'm just in the mood. Let me compliment all of you. You have been, in most groups when we've done this level and this in-depth kind of discussion, the talking amongst you so others couldn't hear would be phenomenally bad. But you have just been as good as gold, and it's let me sit, which means I've got court all next week. We're starting a new procedure. I've got to lug equipment all over the place, so
Yeah.
you're keeping me in decent shape to be able to do my other job next week, so I appreciate your kindness. Now for something completely different. Take your book, go to the very back where it's blank, and open it from the back and go to page 12, homonyms. The very back of the book. The very back of the book. Open it from the back and just open it up. Open it up on one page, and there you are at homonyms. It says 12 and 13. Help your neighbor. Everybody there? Okay. I need to go to the ladies' room, and something I didn't get a chance to do because, as you see, there are more women than men. And I want you to take about 10 minutes. We're going to have a group quiet time now for something a little different, and look at each of these and correct them if necessary. Then we're going to do a couple other things at the end of the day. We'll go over your answers. I'm not going to grade them. It's a self-grading. When I say self-grading, is that hyphenated?
Yes.
Yes. All self-words are hyphenated. Always, always, always. And you can say that about very little. And what I'd like you to do, as you're doing that, because court reporters can, I hate the expression multitask, but we really can. What I'd like you to do is to begin to think if there's anything in terms of grammar or punctuation that you absolutely insist we go over or you will die today. If it's not something, no, really, if there's something you really go, boy, I never discussed that, and clearly this group is not afraid of opening your mouth and sharing. I mean, you really got me to share something I've never shared with anybody. I have to go home and tell my husband, because I share everything with him, whether he wants me to or not. Poor old Lee. He does okay. I'm going to step out for a minute. Be kind to your neighbors, and if you need to talk, God bless you. Go outside and talk amongst yourself. If you want to help each other, that's cool too, because we're supposed to help each other. So while I'm gone, everybody's going to call out the answers. No, I don't care. I'll be right back. I knew you needed quiet time.
Put together a while versus a while.
Yeah, I know, I didn't think of it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I kind of just think about that. If it's for a year, for a you haven't seen her for a while? I'm almost like reading, you know which ones I'm always looking at over and over again? I'm not sure, but I'm thinking in that. I think this one is, I know for sure. But I think it's also the whole idea of what's the main idea. I'm not sure. I'll see what they say. I don't care. I'm not reading it. That's why I use my dictionary like for everything. Every single thing I can, I use it. Yeah. I use it for everything. Okay. Are you staying for 10 hours or 8 hours? What time do you think we're going to get out?
Would y'all let me know if many of you are close to being done or done just about? Okay. Wherever you are, let's just stop there and sally forth. Minutes exactly. If you will, again, going from the back, I'm not trying to confuse you, but in Texas we have to do the workshop in such a way that we do 2.5 hours of ethics, and so it's divided into sections, and I don't speak quite as long, so that's why it's set up like this. But going from the back, go to page 4, audio taped and videotaped material. So go from the back, because there's 2 page 4s for me, so do it from the back. We're not going to cover all of this, I promise you that, but it's page 4 from the back. all I want to do here is to mention briefly about when you're reporting and in either a deposition or in court or any proceeding, that they play a video or an audio or some other source. First of all, is there anyone who does not report that at all? What? Okay. Everybody on page 4, audio, taped and videotape material? Everybody there? When it's what's being played, do you write what's being played? Okay, then never mind. So all you say is video or audio tape played, you don't worry about writing that. Then ignore this. Okay? In Georgia we do. And so there's an issue, it's awful. And there's an issue, of course, of it being from a secondary source when the court reporter's not there. And whether or not, you know, you can hear what's being said because there ain't no court reporter to go speak up. So, of course, what I do is to indent it, say it's being played, and then write as much as I can of what's being played, and then add inaudibles or that I can't distinguish what's being said, but make it clear that it is not me unable to report. And apropos of that, let me mention one other thing. I don't think it's anyone from here, but since enough of you are new, when someone does not respond, please put, I don't know, unless your firm or your court requires something else. Let's say the cue, when did you stop beating your wife? And that one of the classic questions where there's no good answer, because if you've never beat her, or it's, and they don't respond, and then the attorney goes on with another cue. If you put 2 cues in a row, it looks like you ignored the A. So what I put is no response. Do not put, or I recommend that you don't put no audible response, because what that does is call into question, well, what kind of response was given? This is when they don't respond at all. They could have shrugged their shoulders, that they could have made some kind of movement, but and if you say no audible response, what that says is they did respond in some way, but it wasn't verbal, and that makes the reader go, well, what did they do? So no response is really the best thing to put, just apropos of that. Okay, let's talk about verbatim briefly. You've given me a court reporter, no, I'm not, don't have a headache. This is, verbatim is oftentimes the most difficult thing we talk about. This is page 5 from the back, verbatim issues. You know, going back to what we said at the beginning, what we do is we write what we're there to do, and then we prepare a transcript. And that ought to be so simple. It's clear that my recommendation is to report everything you hear unless you're clearly off the record. In Georgia, can you go, and I don't know about here, but in New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Connecticut, if one side says in a deposition, I want to go off the record, and the other side says, no, we're not going off the record, do you go off the record or not?
No.
Okay, that's the same as it is with us. Both sides have to be in agreement, otherwise the reporter keeps reporting. Unless the attorney tries to break your equipment, as we had happen recently.
And when they say it in the court, you look towards the judge. I mean, I look towards the judge.
When they,
I don't
absolutely.
listen to an attorney.
When they say it in the court, you look toward the judge. I was trained, the judge walks in, you start going till the judge says to quit going. And again, just in case they don't catch it, and a lot of this depends on your relationship with the judge, but my judges are both very sensitive to me, and if I'm looking at them, they're you know, they'll respond back. I'm very lucky in terms of the relationship. But in terms of verbatim, there are a few caveats. If someone has a true speech impediment, what do you do? Cry, yes. Take drugs, a little Valium. Have a drink. Need a drink break. I ignore the impediment. What I mean by that is most of you are too young to remember, and her name just went, no, Gilda Radner. She was married to Gene Wilder, wonderful actress, comedian, died way too young. And she used to do a character on a show called Saturday Night Live where she played Barbara Walters. Now, I don't think Barbara Walters has a terrible speech impediment, but she does have a little bit of a lisp. And Gilda Radner, to the great disgust of the real Barbara Walters, used to play Barbara Walters. And she would begin by saying, "This is Baba Wawa. Baba Wawa." And just demolish her name. And as someone had that speech impediment, I would write Barbara Walters. I ignore the impediment because I think the danger of dealing with the impediment is it makes it look like to the reader that the reporter is making fun of someone. If I have a stutterer, there are a couple of exceptions, but if I have a true stutterer, I put enough in as a reminder to the gentle reader that we had a stutterer, but I will not put, Q, state your name for the record. Hey, my name, my name.
That's a stammer.
That's not all good. That is more of a stammer, you're right. I'm not a stutterer, so I really can't do that, but I'm not going to put every last one of those in there. Makes it look like I'm padding the transcript, and it again makes it look like I'm making fun of someone with an impediment. The one caveat, and this came up from a reporter who does Board of Education actually in Illinois, and she said the case was under the, from the American for Disabilities Act that now is in the school system nationwide, where kids with autism and other disabilities are required to have the same education as every other child, so if they need special help, they get it. The issue was, this child has a terrible stutter. Well, everything I could hear, I wrote, because that was the issue. But if that is not the issue, and it rarely is, you just got a witness who happens to have, that's a speech impediment. I put in enough to say, hey, I caught it, but I'm not going to put 20 lines of I. It looks like I'm padding the transcript and again, making fun. You as a reader, we're not writing the great American novel as court reporters, are we? There are reporters that think that, where, it was a dark and stormy afternoon, the witness sighed, the attorney growled. I mean, it's not that kind of story. Yes, ma'am.
What do you do if it's a video deposition?
What do I do if it's a video deposition? I did not know this because I don't know much about newfangled stuff, because I'm in an old-fangled courtroom with old-fangled judges. Please don't, hello, yes, I just called you old-fangled judges. It sounds fine when I talk about newfangled and old-fangled. When I put the judge after it, it suddenly doesn't sound real good, does it? There is something called synchronization, where the actual written transcript is synchronized with the video. I would put everything in. But if it's not synchronized, I don't worry about it. For instance, to make it simpler, if someone sneezes, I don't put that in my transcript normally. If someone sneezes and someone says, "Gesundheit," God bless you, I consider that extraneous. I do not think I'm going to lose my license for not reporting that. Just as I do not, and this could become a real issue with the synchronization, which is why I call certain newfangled things into question. What if you've got someone who cannot talk without saying every other word? Doesn't that affect synchronization? And normally I don't put uhs in transcripts. If that's the only answer, when did you stop beating Q? When did you stop beating your wife? A, yeah, I might put that in, spelled U-H.
I wouldn't put it in.
You wouldn't?
No.
There, if it didn't answer, I would.
I would ask the judge or whoever, or just ask them, is that yes or no? Because I was taught to take words down, not sounds.
Right, but there are some sounds that have become common usage for words. But if that's the only answer,
Right.
but if they say, I really don't know what you mean, I would write and put in the transcript, I really don't know what you mean. That would be long gone. Yes, ma'am.
What about in a
Denise.
situation where, because this has come up, if the witness says, I think it was blah, 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 and now the attorney says, you seem to have hesitated before you gave that answer. So in that case, you have to write the
Okay, the question, brilliant question, is if the witness seems to hesitate,
But the question by the attorney.
answers the issue.
Yeah.
That's why it's brilliant, because the attorney asks a question and the witness says, I think it was last week or whatever it is, and do you put that in? And then the attorney says, Q, I think it seems that you hesitated. Are you sure that it was last week? The question is, do you put that in to show that they hesitated? Good question. I would not, because the attorney is record sensitive and makes everything make sense. That they hesitate. You know, what if they hesitated by a pause? Witness waits 20 seconds before answering. Suddenly, you've lost your mind. I mean, really. Though once I did in a DOE hearing, the DOE, they're crazy. And these are things that we transcribed from tapes. It was a special contract. DOE, and I'm sure they still do it, we got 2 big nuclear power plants near Augusta. And in both cases, employees can lose their jobs over filing bankruptcy, because suddenly you might get you're subject to being able to be persuaded with money to give up something. If they divorce and adultery is involved, I mean they are scrutinized like crazy. And we used to have to do these. And let me tell you, the pauses and hesitations in answers. I noticed that you're sleeping with a 21-year-old. Why don't you tell me about that? And we, of course, wrote, when we weren't writing, we were just transcribing. We put what we heard that are real words, just as had it been a transcript. Or had it been a deposition or a court case. And the DOE personnel guy said, we want every pause, we want every guttural sound, my word, not theirs, and every pause and the length of the pause put in there. We gave up the contract. That's, life's too short. And if anybody thinks because of your brilliant ear as a court reporter, you do have to hear pretty well to do what we do. Sometimes you hear better than you wish you did. We'll ask you to do something like that. I wouldn't. There's not enough money in the world. Yes, sir.
Just you swear in a witness with an unusual last name, and the question is, do you pronounce your name this way or this way?
I got your answer. Y'all ready?
Well, I think I know my answer, but I don't know what you. But I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what I do. Okay, number 1, it looks weird in the transcript. If you live in Augusta, Georgia, and McKie is pronounced Mackey, across the Savannah River in North Augusta, South Carolina, it's pronounced McKee. And you get someone with McKie as their last name, The question is, do you pronounce it McKee or Mackey? And attorneys will do this as a way to make nice, and they want to pronounce people's names correctly. Houston. In Texas, that said Houston. In Savannah, it's Houston. Same word. So if we get anybody from down south in Georgia, the attorney will often say, is it Houston or Houston? And in the transcript, it looks like, is it McKee or McKee? Is it Houston or Houston? And that looks weird. What I do after the second is to write different pronunciation. In parentheses. The alternative is to spell it with the diacritical marks, with the accent marks. And to me, I look too much like Merriam-Webster. So and again, someone who is not real conversant with putting, a short E sound or a long, remember how you make the line across is for a long E sound, and the little look like a U is for the sound. That, number one, if you remember them, and sadly I do, it's hard maybe to get your machine to perform that function. And number two, nobody expects you to remember those sorts of things. So I don't like that, and I think people that are not regular dictionary readers, and sadly there are fewer and fewer in the whole wide world, including students and their teachers, I think that you end up, it looks junky, but different pronunciation after the second one, then let it go however they say the name, and don't worry about it unless the cue is, now Mr. Houston, what happened next? I told you my name was Houston. Then I put the different pronunciation around the wrong one set above. It's not really a sick, it's a pronunciation difference, but it looks like the same word. Now speaking, I don't like the expression segue. Segue and multitask are two words that I would ban from the Sue McDuffie Memorial Dictionary. I'll have to write that. Not a chance. But that was a wonderful introduction to pronunciation differences. This is where, to me, the verbatim becomes an issue. And the example I always love to use is my former idiot brother-in-law. You've heard the expression persona non grata. Well, that's one in bad relationship with my sister, and it took her forever to leave him. But he's from Sweetwater, Tennessee. That's way in the Smoky Mountains. That's not quite Deliverance, but it's up in that area. Oh my goodness, stop. My mind just went where it just needs to come back from. Back, Sue, come home. I'm back. And he says, far, when he's talking about, you better put that far out in the backyard before it hits the house. Far. F-I-R-E. Far.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When I was in Houston, not Houston, Texas, about 4 weeks ago, one of the court reporters there said, Gal, I bet, they called you Gal, I kind of like that. Gal, I bet you never heard this. Jeet. Of course I know that. Did you eat?
Jeet.
And everyone knows Mama and them. Mama and them. Not M&M. Mama and them. Mama and them. I'm going to see Mama and them after court. Mama and them couldn't come today, Judge. Can I have a recess? Don't choke, darling. I mean, bless your heart. You got the.
I'm still getting used to you saying "darn it."
Darn.
Darn.
I can say other words, but it's my preference to, after a while, if you're not who you are, who can you be? Someone like that. That was wonderful. I don't know where that came from. That's the chocolate. But y'all is a real word. And please, 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 as James Brown of Augusta, Georgia used to say, spell it. There's a song called Please. I just realized y'all are all too young to know Please, 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 Please. No one knows that song but me. Sam Cooke. Y''ALL. I see it in transcripts. I see it in the newspaper. YA''LL. And as all of us know, notice the proper verb, the subject verb usage. As all of us know, the apostrophe is used for possession or elision. Elision means words are left out. Letters are left out.
Isn't it slang?
No.
It's a real word.
It's a real word. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from the South. It really is a word. I'm English major. Wait, I'm the one that did Just Desserts in Venus. y'all don't believe a word I say. But, no, I know you do. But, in y'all, OU is left out. So after the Y is where the apostrophe goes. But I've seen it written. And please, I beg of you, whether you're using an online dictionary or the big good book, the other good book, dictionary and the Bible, there you have it. I beg of you, do not let road signs, TV ads, billboards determine your grammar use. I once had this lady that was a scopist with us, and she would do the most bizarre things. And it was one of the children, not St. Jude, but one of the children's hospitals. And in the trade name, and of course this is research, you spell the trade name like they spell it. Except for that backwards R in Toys R Us. I can't help myself. And children's normally in writing would be N''S. But I think this hospital did not put did not put it. And she would go, well, the New York Times put it in there, although that's not their correct name. But the New York Times is on the cutting edge of grammar. We should do what they do. Court reporters, I don't believe, should be on the cutting edge of grammar. I think we better stick with kind of the middle of the road, keep doing what we're doing. If things change, it's fine. A seatbelt, I think, in the most recent dictionaries is finally one word. In my old dictionary, it was 2 words. And I kept it 2 words, although I know other court reporters that freed it and liberated it into a 1-word state earlier on.
Well, when it was 2 words, nobody used it.
Good point. Only when it was 1 word did it feel like buckling up. You've given me a bizarre philosophical headache, but thank you. You've said other good things. You're forgiven. I can take it. Just be careful with those sorts of things. Let me see how we're doing on time. I don't want to leave you. Let's stay till 8 or 9. No, physically, I'm about to reach the end of my proverbial rope. Now, if someone says, put that far out in the backyard, I spell it F-I-R-E. Had my brother-in-law been able to read, well, I don't hold many grudges, but those I do hold well.
Yeah. There was a guy testifying one time. The word was tire iron, I-R-O-N. He used a tire iron as a
Arn?
word. And I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Tarn.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
he was saying.
Tarn, that sounds like Middle Georgia to me.
Yeah.
If you can't understand, you've got to ask them to repeat it till you do.
Write it down.
Or spell it, write it down. Sadly, sometimes they can't spell it, like with their child's name. But had Ted been able to spell well, and you said far, spell it. F-I-R-E, are you deaf? In Georgia or in the South, and this is oftentimes African Americans will say, he asked me, did I want to go with him?
Yeah, that's a dandy. And
I spell that A-S-K-E-D. because it's a pronunciation difference. Keep in mind, for those of you that go, oh, but that's not true verbatim. Yeah, it is. You hear people that sound like you in perfect English. Mama, for her education and smarts and delight and good sense, taught like an old country gal, and she liked to put it on. Y'all come back when you don't have so long to stay. She really didn't sound that country, but she liked to put it on as, you know, a kind of a wisecracking, it's a southern thing. I loved it about her. I'm not as good at it. But she, if she said far, well, she would say get or forget. Mom also was choir director at our church, and she would require us to enunciate every word in the choir. And so she knew get, but conversationally she would say get. I heard get every time she said get because it was Mom and him. So people that look like you and sound like you, whether you know it or not consciously, you're very forgiving of how they sound. People that are from a different race, from a different part of the country, from another country, you know, that they're not you. You see everything that's different. So be careful. If you decide to put everything that, let's say Mom and them would say, better make sure you do it for everybody else. And some of you work with judges who are very colloquial. I know you've got a judge from Savannah, and he may use some Southernese. And now I'm not talking about fixing it. If someone says worser, I put worser, because all they've done is taken a real word and added an R to the end of it. People from other countries do that. They'll add the wrong beginning or ending, and I don't worry about it. But the medical examiner in Augusta is a Dr. Abdullah, and he says violence. Violence. Very good. Violence. And I don't put violence. That's not a word, number one. I put violence because that's what he's saying. That's just his accent and the way different countries pronounce different words. Different countries put accents on different syllables. So be careful with that. If you decide to say, well, this person's uneducated, I'm going to make them sound just like they sounded, and you've got a judge that suddenly starts talking, you know, like he's from the Georgia hills, you better make him sound just like you did the person without the education. Do them all the same. Be careful with that. It's so late in terms of time. Do me a favor. I'm not going to do the translator simply because we'll spend the rest of our lives on it. The problem with your interpreters would be, aside from the really awful ones, we've already discussed that, is that I have never seen an interpreter truly, or whichever you use, in a deposition or in court, do it properly in terms of procedure. Ideally, the attorney asks the cue in English. The interpreter takes that English question, and we're on page, sort of on page 7, and translate it into the other language which they're certified to interpret in, and then propounds the answer in the voice of the witness. Q, state your name for the record. Actually, that usually is okay in English, but let's say Q.
The worst thing is when the attorney doesn't do it right.
Well, and that starts off everything going wrong.
Yeah, have her tell me her name.
And what happens is Q, where do you live? Talking another language. A, I live at 1217 whatever road. That's how it's supposed to go. And usually you get 2 or 3 questions and answers that go just fine, and then either the attorney says, Okay, and suddenly they develop this friendship with this translator, and they go, well, ask him where he went to school. So suddenly, you're in the land of colloquy. And then the interpreter immediately picks up, and suddenly you have this other stuff going on. And you've got to figure out a way to handle that, and I show the way I do it here. Just as long as you're consistent and honest, it really doesn't matter. Just pick a way to do it. The other issue is when the witness, and I have this a lot, really understands English and they forget to wait for the translator. Yeah. Ooh, you've got to show that. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So in this instance, okay, now ask him how long he's lived in the United States. Translator. What if the translator says, he said, I've lived in the United States for this long? Instead of saying he right there. How would you make that look?
Colloquy.
But would you put, he says, comma, quote, and you... No, that's not... If it had been, he says, I live. Right. But no, it's he says he. There's no hint of a quote there. But what if that's what he said?
I would have put in colloquy, translator colon or interpreter, he says, and I would have used a comma there because I'd already used a colon, and 2 colons that close together would make me crazy. If you wanted to use quote marks, you could, but again, I'm not a fan of the quote marks.
So you would just separate with a comma?
Yep, that's all I would do. And for those of you that are fans of quote marks and your court or your firm or something about where you work does not require you to use them, do me a favor. The next deposition or case you do it without quote marks. You don't know how happy you will be liberated for the rest of your life. Even if they're reading, very much like the translator, the Q&A, and how you get about 3 Q&As and then suddenly we'll ask him what happened, or the interpreter will say, he says he lives at, and you suddenly are into colloquy. You will have someone reading. I saw the patient for 3 weeks and gave him the following medications. You know, I really didn't mean to give him any medication, but my nurse just slipped up and we gave him more than we should have, but we fixed that right away. And then he said, and suddenly they're not reading anything. They're reading a few words and they're talking a few words. The issue with quote marks is you've got to know it's an exact quote. And sometimes you don't. What I do is if they're reading, let me read from his chart. That is a perfect setup for a colon. The patient, I saw the patient, blah, 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 blah. Works fine. Then if they suddenly go back and start chatting with the attorney, I do a hard return, space, and I do a different paragraph. Then if he goes back and starts reading or some semblance, but you know it's not going to be an exact quote, at the beginning I do a hard return, different paragraph, and I put the word reading in brackets, parenthetical, at the beginning. And you can tell whether they're actually reading every word verbatim, and they're not. You can tell when they're reading, their voice changed, they're looking at something. The biggest problem I have with your quote marks is the kind of court work I do. And you will have this with depositions. The excited witness. We do every Friday morning Jerry Springer Court, private warrants. 2 women fighting over baby daddy. 2 women at a country bar pulling each other's hair out over some raggedy man who's not there. And they're always in the ladies' room or in the parking lot. And sadly, 99% of them are women. If they've got cross warrants, and they always bring in the hair that got pulled out in a bag, and they try to thrust it at the judge, and neither one of my judges wants that hair. Or they bring in their bloody clothes. Yes, sir.
Do you ever use quote marks? When do you use them?
The only time I use them are when Judge Allen says, I'm going to read from this document, quote, reads it exact. And when he finishes, he says end quote.
Now, I learned when they say quote, you don't have to you write out quote, you don't put quote mark.
If someone says, and he said quote, I went to the store and I didn't like what he did, and he came back and they never end the quote mark, then I put the word QUOTE there. But if they use the quote marks exactly correctly, I use the quote marks. If I know it's an exact quote, and I promise you, I don't think, except for Judge Allen, Judge Jennings doesn't read from other sources, but knows everything. But Judge Allen, because he was a prosecutor for so long, he can hear an objection coming up. He'll send a note to the bailiff to go in his office, pull out the applicable case, which he knows in his head, and by the time they get there, he goes, in pertinent part, this says, and he reads it exact every time, because I've double checked him and he's never missed.
Well, what if you have a witness that said, were you there when the person was murdered? Or did you hear anything? And the witness says, well, I heard he said, I killed the person.
What I would put, I can make it even worse than that. Well, let me do somebody country, because I don't think anybody in me is country, so I can only offend myself, and I never offend myself. Okay. Miss Jones, tell me your side of the story. Okay, I went to the bar with Bubba, and Bubba went to the men's room, and so I went to the ladies' room, and there she was. And I said, you get out of this ladies' room. This is my man, and you ain't gonna be in here. And she said, this is my bar, you in the wrong place. And I said, and she said, I would put, Bubba went to the men's room, so I went to the ladies' room. And she was there. And I said, comma, get out of this ladies' room, semicolon, I'm here with Bubba, semicolon, you don't belong here, period. She said,
well, that's because
comma.
It's long and you can't be exact quote. But what about if it's only 3 or 4 words?
I put a comma, or if there's a setup, I like the colon.
And no quotes.
And no quote marks. You don't know that it's an exact quote.
All right.
Do you initial
Even if
cap
you
it
were-
though?
I do not initial cap it with a comma. See, the issue with quote marks, remember way back then, go back to whenever you took your last English court. Don't be afraid, we're not going to be there very long. You're getting very sleepy. Way back when, you have to remember, do you initial cap before the quote mark? Well, what if it's only one word? Do you initial cap that? Well, I can't remember. If it's a brand name, of course I do, but what if it's just one word? I don't know about that. Okay, if it's a question mark or exclamation mark, which I don't ever use, that goes outside the quote mark unless the question mark itself is part of the quote, for instance, as in Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Have you ever read Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Since that's part of the quote, that would go inside the quote mark. But if the question, commas and semicolons go outside the quote mark, commas and periods go inside. Okay, my days of writing papers, and I wrote a plenty of them, a apostrophe plenty, that's, or a hyphen plenty, that's just countrified talk, are over. There's not going to be another ibid in my life, I promise you that. Quote marks require you to go to a whole new level of grammar that frankly I don't have time for. Plus, we don't know that it's an exact quote. Seriously, if you like quote marks, try one transcript without it and see if you aren't happier. Okay, we're at the end of our rope. Let's go to these homonyms. You know I can't end the day without them. Page 12 at the very end.
Okay.
Perfect timing. Y'all are just so good. I'm going to take y'all back to Augusta, really. I want crab legs for my birthday. I got to get my birthday dinner tomorrow night. Does that sound good? A little salad with a Louis dressing. Sound okay? Homemade yeast rolls. I didn't eat very much lunch and I don't eat breakfast when I teach. I'm ready for something. I don't think the hotel's going to meet all of my needs, but I don't care. We'll go as far as we can until Jeff comes and drags me off. Not going to happen. Don't say drug when you mean drag. He drugged me off the stage. Cocaine or marijuana. 12, number 1. How many children do you claim altogether? On this one, let me ask you, how many of you like it as one word?
No.
How many of you like it as 2 words? I think 2 words is better when you count us all in a group. Let's sing this song all together. All of us in a group. All together as one word means entirely. And that would be a good replacement word. Let's do affect and effect. Did the effect of that drug affect his personality, or did it affect any change at all to your knowledge? How's that looking for you?
Fine.
It's fine except for the last. I only use commas if the sentence doesn't read well without it, because of course, somebody who says, of course, every other sentence. So, but you could. To me, it's readable without it, but it is kind of long. Or you could put one after personality also would be an option. I think it's fine like it is. But that last affect has to be effect. The problem is that many of you learned that effect was a noun and affect was a verb. They're both. And that's the problem. For anybody that struggles over affect or effect, that's your problem. Affect as a noun means how you appear emotionally. It's a psychological term. When I saw him, he had a flat affect. He had clearly been traumatized from years of seeing his mama abused by his dad. That's the use. A as a noun. E as a noun or as a verb means to bring about or bring about. And E as a noun means result. So if you think effect, to bring about result, you'll always be correct. Number 2, that one we just did the result of that drug, affect verb meaning to change, his personality, or did it bring about any change at all? So if you can replace it with bring about as a verb, you've got E. As a noun and it means result, you've got E. Each other time will be A, and that works every time. 3, I kind of made up because I like doing this one. I think it's funny. And in court about 5 weeks ago, we had a gentleman who, I thought he was an attorney at first, 3-piece suit and a briefcase. He was a soldier boy. We've got a Signal Corps outside of Augusta, and on weekends when they get leave, they go into town to the Snake Lady. It's a bar where the Snake Lady dances naked except for her boa constrictor. Y'all come on down. It's just a funky, well, every place has their own little areas. And he had gotten drunk, and over time, you'll find that if you tell a police officer when you're drunk, take me to jail, they will. They will every time. And this little Caucasian boy used some language he should not have had to this huge but teddy bear of an African American police officer who works duty outside the Snake Lady Club. And I won't say what he said because I won't, but it was not pretty. And he also added he challenged his manhood in addition. It was just, he is real lucky. That guy is a nice guy. He's used to it. He handles himself brilliantly. And he said, "Judge, I didn't say one epitaph to him." And I never thought I would hear it in court. And Judge Jennings said back, We don't use epitaphs in this courtroom, and you also won't use any, what's the real word? Epithet. E-P-I-T-H-E-T-S. E-P-I-T-H-E-T-S. And what does it mean? Curse words, bad words, inappropriate words. What this guy said to that police officer. And what are epitaphs? What's written on a tombstone? Very good. This one happened to me, and I wasn't sure. Oh, I'm sorry.
What's on a tombstone?
What's written there?
Yeah.
E-P-I-T-A-P-H-S.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it should have been epithets. 4 happened to me, and I thought, ooh, this is good. Because I had to pause a moment in my proofing. Although we did a thorough search, we never found any pour patterns on the rug after the fire. What do you think about that?
P-O-R-E.
P-O-U-R is correct. Accelerant. This is an arson investigator. Pour patterns where they poured the accelerant. But I've now seen it 4 or 5, I've heard it 4 or 5 times on TV with some arson. We've had a rash of arson in certain neighborhoods in Augusta, which has got people kind of concerned. It's just blocks from my house, so I fret over that. But I now heard it on TV 4 or 5 times. But this came up in a criminal case we did, and the arson investigator said this sentence exactly. And notice there I did use the comma with the introductory clause because there's a verb in it, and you really need to be doing that. 5, I have to go past her house every day. How's that looking? P-A-S-T. It's an adverb. It means where. I had to go where. Now every day should be one word, shouldn't it? No. Every day, can every day ever be one word? In front of the noun it describes. These are my everyday clothes, one word every day, as opposed to my Sunday go to meeting clothes. All of that hyphenated as a compound adjective. The principal idea of my thesis was nothing like hers. Notice hers without an apostrophe, please. How's that looking? A-L. It's A-L. Many of us that are older, no one's as old as I am today, but learned that the principal is your pal, and that leads you to think that every other time it will be L-E, and that's not right. L-E means a rule which ends in L-E to live by. Each other time it is A-L, and I know that some schools teach it money, man, or major. The principal violinist of the New York Symphony, A.L. Principal of a school, A.L. We got compounded interest on that principal, money, A.L. So this should have been A.L. I must admit that story did pique my interest in learning more about his gang ties. How's that pique looking? P-I-Q-U-E. It's not a $50 word, but you need to know it. You know what pecani sauce is? Let's go back to our food. Let's go to our just desserts. Pecani kind of brightens your tongue and your taste buds and gets you all excited. That's the same, from the same root. Look at number 8.
Yeah.
Could be either. There is a slight difference, formally. But boy, the way some people talk, it's hard to tell. You typically in context will know. If I wasn't sure, you know, and you would know someone, if they're talking about a murder case and they've been charged with murder before and they got out, I think that's going to come up somewhere along the way. If I weren't sure of that, I would put it formally, A-L, the way most of you would have done. I didn't understand the gist of that argument. It's fine. J-E-S-T means something else entirely. That's like the jive and jibe that Jeff mentioned at the beginning. Just means ha ha ha. Just means crux, essential meaning.
Just, yeah.
10. I love this. I'm ordering the licensing department to raise that building given the level of disrepair.
R-A-Z-E.
R-A-Z-E. I know some court reporters don't even know what that word is. Needs to tear it down. And you go, well, you don't know. Yeah, you do. Read the sentence. 11. How's that looking?
F-R-I-E-Z-E.
F-R-I-E-Z-E. In most Romance languages, I and E together, if the E is pronounced, then it comes second. And let's say you didn't know that. Are you required to take art history to be a court reporter? No, you're not. But there ought to be, when you proof, a little voice that says, this don't look right. That doesn't make any sense in the world unless you're clearly talking about, let's say that the sprinklers at the college went off and it froze that night, nobody turned them off, and you know that there was a large pattern of ice water frozen on the side of the building and that caused damage and somebody fell. Unless you've got that slip and fall case, this is not that. And what is a freeze, I-E-Z-E? Sculpture, mural, often something that is built, recessed out of or into a wall. Wondering we've already done. 12, they might be W-O-N-D-E-R-I-N-G, but it's the physical would be A, wandering. Look at alleyway, it really is one word. 13, is that correct?
Yes.
Absolutely. IMM means about to happen. The storm is imminent. A person might be imminent, but meaning when you're talking about qualified or having the capability, it's EMI. Is stationary okay?
Yes.
Absolutely. This one as a child used to be my bugaboo. Could never get it right, and somebody finally said, when you write a letter has no A in it. And that's all it took, and I now remember it forever. In the same vein, how's that looking? It's V-E-I-N, it's correct. Okay, you got 3 veins. You probably think this song is about you, you're so vain. And that's V-A-I-N, meaning you think you hot stuff. You've got V-A-N-E, and that's what we put on the top of the barn in Lizard Lake to look at where the wind's blowing from. You don't need a weatherman, but no, never mind. V-E-I-N is a vein in the arm, a vein of ore running through the mountainside. Mountainside's one word, and that's where it gets its meaning here. And that same vein, along the same lines, is correct. 16, who disbursed the foundation's fund?
Correct.
It is correct, and there is such a word. Dispersed, P-E-R-S, means to scatter. And I always think of, anybody remember Johnny Appleseed? Or am I telling my age? Who scattered apples throughout America, apple seeds, and that's where we get our apple trees. And that has a P in it, but when you're talking about money, it's a B. And in the olden days, before y'all were born, they used to call the person who handled the money at a college the bursar, B-U-R-S-A-R, and it's from that root. 17. How many think it's correct? It is correct. Be careful. TV shows. There is a TV show based on a book or a short story called To the Manor Born. I think it's Faulty Towers, maybe. And the book, the British book, is is manor, M-A-N-O-R. But the expression, and look it up if you don't believe me, Justice Ertz, the expression means to the style of, and M-A-N-N-E-R, it could be any style. I was born to the manor of Old Country Gal in Lizard Lick, as opposed to Kate, what's your name? And I didn't watch it and made fun of people that did last night after I got in my hotel room. I watched it and cried my eyes out. I loved it. It was really a lovely service. And it's nice to see young people that look like they're in love, and doesn't happen very often. We have to do one more, and Jeff's sending me away, but I promised Judge Allen I'd do it. Look at number 22. This is Judge Allen's bugaboo. How's that looking? Please, Judge Allen, you'll make an old country judge happy if you put T-H-R-O-E-S. If you need me for anything, call on me. This has been the most fun workshop. I'm almost glad to be here on my birthday, and that's saying a lot, folks. Thank you so much.
Okay, hey, you're done. It's over with. You can go home now. Oh, wait, you already are home because you took a Jeff Justice seminar program online. Good thinking, smart for you. So just go ahead and either email us the PDF or send it in snail mail, whichever way you were doing this. We'll grade it, get it back to you along with your letter of completion. And remember, we have plenty more programs like this, so hopefully you will come to us time and time again when you need your CEUs, okay? Take care. Remember to always laugh more, stress less, and avoid getting burned out. Take care from Jeff Justice Seminars.